morning, Amita.
Bonjour.
Bonjour. Today you were going to tell us a little story about the transformation flowers?
Yes. I picked up 5 transformation flowers from those which, I can start, from those which Nadat gave me. Even last time's flowers are quite fresh. And these flowers used to be called special flowers, which had to be counted and given to the mother. Much later, when mother used to come to the meditation hall where there's her chair and give flowers, she used to give a different number of transformation flowers to each one, according to, sometimes only one, with the psychological perfection flower which she always gave. So to me one day, she gave me 3, and then she caught my hand and she added 2 more. So, so I have in my hand 5 flowers. And the most astonishing thing about this flower I learned when I was a little child. We used to pick up transformation flowers from the ground which had fallen, and our elders told me to also pick up those which have wilted. And we came, and those wilted flowers were put in water while we were counting these, and we used to keep them 10 by 10, 10 in one heap, so that afterwards we could collect them together. And by the time we got our dish ready, those wilted flowers had freshened up. They freshen up if the base pistil with calyx is not there. You know, there is enough, the water can, water is drawn out. And if they are too long in water, the petals lose the white color. You have to put them back dry, and then only.
And you were telling me a story about
the name, the Bengali
yes,
name.
Yes, the Bengali name, yes.
I used to like these flowers very much. I saw them here for the first time. And I told my mother this, I think I told the story, they smell so sweet. I feel like eating them up. I was a little girl. So next, when we went back to Calcutta, after some time, my parents showed, look at the end of the lawn. There was a lawn like that, big enough for playing tennis if you wanted to play lawn tennis. There was this flower, the tree, even it had even flowered. And they told me that in Bengali it is called Akash Neem. The leaves look like neem leaves from far, and the tree grows very high. In English it is called Indian cork tree, if I'm not mistaken, yes, Indian yes. Cork tree. And in our drawing class, this was one of the first flowers that we learned to draw. And our drawing teacher said, when I was fumbling with it, he told me it's very easy. It's like a cross, and the 2 petals are like that, and the center petal is big. You cut in the middle, and it is it comes all right. And
this reminds me that you were going to tell us about people that Mother called to her room to sketch.
Oh yes.
Yes.
Those were very special days when Mother did not have the top floor. Mother used to stay on the first floor, which we crossed to go up for darshan, right? Where there is Mother's couch, where many people put flowers or offerings. And she used to stay there, and it was a very special occasion when you would be called in That's the one I was talking about.
Yes.
One day, she called us in. We were going to recite that year from Ahana. I wonder if I've spoken about it. Mother read out to us lines from Ahana, while Norman, Arati and I, we were sitting on the floor at her feet, listening to the lines that had been chosen and read out to Sri Aurobindo himself. So, after she read out the lines to us, she gave us, I think I've spoken about it, the coleus, which is called vital strength
Yes, you
and
did.
quiet strength of in the vital. Because she used to say to some people that she's encouraging the work on the stage for us youngsters because we would be forced to control our thoughts and emotions and be able to recite or speak out our roles in keeping with what we have understood of the text. So in 1947 we did Ahana, and Mother had sent one of her own saris for me to wear. And Melody, Jumu's mother, who was in charge of the costumes already, told me, you know, Mother has sent this sari. Ahana is the goddess of the dawn. So Mother sent a very light peach-colored sari, which had rectangles in jari, in gold thread. And after the recitation was over, Melody took the sari away, and then one night we used to go for pranam to the mother. I saw Mother wearing that sari. So somebody asked, I was very young, so Mother had worn that sari, and much later, in the 50s, I think it was at least five or 6 years later, one day, Mother used to see me in the corridor of the ashram before going to balcony, for the balcony darshan. So one day, she had worn a top coat. She used to have a satin gown over which she used to put on a top coat. And that top coat was in the sari. And she remembered, and when I looked at her and I looked at her coat, she said, yeah, it is that.
You mentioned another time where Mother would call artists to her room to do drawings.
Yes, yes. That was before 1950. Mother used to call, I think they had about 5 or 6 sessions of, Mother used to call one of the young people or older people for sitting, and a few artists. I only remember perhaps Krishnalal, Jayantilal, you know, these people, to sketch, Milady, to sketch, and to do a portrait in pencil or charcoal. Mother had used to go around for her usual work, and she would look in and correct a little. I think Melody has described it in detail in one of her talks in the school. Then once she looked at a portrait done by Krishnalal, was it, or one of them, of Manoj Dam. And she said it is good, but the face is as he will look about 30 years later. And Urmila Rauji Bhai, she had done also her portrait. They had done also her portrait, and a few others. I think in Mother and her paintings, there are some of these drawings. If you want, I have got the book. We can pick up some of these drawings in your stairs later on. The mother was very interested in paintings, and I told you about my first drawings which I gave to mother on cards, postcard, a little bigger than postcard size, which were leftovers from our ashram press. Ashram press had thin cardboard covers, so they gave me the strips, light green or light blue, some strips like that for painting. So I had painted some pictures. Mother had liked them very much, but she told me that if you want me to write, you have to keep a little more space. I think I'd spoken about it also.
Now we have...
But she liked my flower drawings. So afterwards, my brother, my doctor brother, who used to work in Chennai, in Madras at that time, came to know that mother wanted me to do pastels, oil pastels. So he got a whole roll of oil pastel paper of different colors. So one year I had the idea of giving mother 12, for the 12 months, white flowers painted. And I wanted very much to paint this unselfishness flower, of which there was a creeper in what we call the flower room, the La Fond. I went in, and the flower department in charge said, "Oh, how foolish. This is not the season. It blooms only in April and May." I was very disappointed, and I came back home. So, well, then I'll draw another white flower. 3 or 4 days later, when I was going to the ashram, there he was, swinging one flower in his hand. He said, "By chance, there are 2 flowers on the on the creeper, so I can give them to you." And I was very happy. I painted them.
We were going to pick up from 1948 on dramatics,
1948 on dramatics.
finishing that segment.
Yes, it is true. Oh, that's a long time back. 1948, we did a French play,
That you told us about.
Le Voyage de
Yes,
M. Périsson.
that was
I
the
told-
comedy?
That was the comedy.
Yes, yeah. That was where we ended, I
Where we
believe.
ended up. The next year, I think I began, I told you, Mother asked me to recite from Savitri.
Yes, yes.
I told
yeah,
you
yeah,
that.
that's right, yes, that's right.
And we had done the dialogue between Yama and Savitri that year. And I should have kept a portion ready because young children of that time didn't understand the lines so well. But they remembered, even afterwards, that I had many speeches which started with the words, "Oh, death." So they used to repeat it, "Oh, death," copying me. And I should have kept 1 or 2 passages ready. I do it by and by.
And you brought some letters from
But
Mother,
the-
let's finish up on dramatics. You started teaching drama, did you
That
not?
was much later,
Ah,
but I can talk about it just
Okay.
now. We had very special coaches for dramatics. Norman Dowsett himself had some training of dramatics and had given us coaching on English diction and made us do some modern play. And the first play we did in blank verse was by someone I forget, called The Cloak. Did I speak of it?
Yes,
And
I believe.
I spoke of it also. And mother came to the school to watch us. And she told me that afterwards that I'd be able to do something in the line. The
Svetlana also?
Before Svetlana, we had Norman, and then the year we were doing Vasavadatta, that means Sri Aurobindo's play in blank verse, in 1956, when the theatre hall was first purchased and opened. And no, when it was first purchased and opened, we did Conversations of the Dead, 1956. 1957, I did a French play called Lumière sans obscurité. 1957, did I speak about Lumière sans obscurité?
No.
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 Lumière sans obscurité, light without obscurity, is a lily flower, ground lily,
Yes.
white ground lily, which blooms usually 4 in one stalk. The title is based on that, and Tanmay and Padma, 2 teachers, we noticed every day after the distribution was over, the groundnuts distribution in the playground, mother would wait and they would come and sit in front of the mother and read something. It took a few days for them to complete the story they had written. Afterwards they told me it was very interesting. They had discussed it, but one would write and finish halfway, turn the page and go away, and then the next one would come and continue, and it was continuous. So mother was very interested. Then mother told me, it is a very nice story. Would you like to do the play? Because until then I had done only Sri Aurobindo's plays. I said, yes, mother, whatever you would like me to do. She said, it is a very nice story. Then it was the story of a blind girl who gets back her sight when a friend of hers, a boy who lived next door, heard that she had dreamt of a flower which she did in clay model, because as she was blind, she used to do clay modeling. So there was a scene where this boy comes to see her, and he sits on the bench where she is doing the clay modeling, and I was sitting here, and she shows him the flower she dreamt of, and she describes it. In the center there were 6 heads like that with 2 paths, and she describes it like that, and then he says, I will look for it. And he goes out of town to look for it, and she is convinced that if she gets that flower, her dream will come true. That flower touches her eye and she gets back her sight. So I told the mother, if the whole thing sounds like a fairy tale to me, how am I going to convince the audience that it is true? So mother said, no, such things are going to happen when the new light starts functioning in the world. And then she said, tell me your last lines. So on the spot, I told her which lines I had to say, and she saw one line I've forgotten, unfortunately. She said, no, that's not quite French. All right, I'll change that. And she showed me how to look in the blank with open eyes, but show as if you are blind, you can't see. And I myself found a method. The first scene I had to enter, I think it was after one act, there was a bush in the garden, and she used to love the garden. So what I did, I took the gown I was wearing, I stuck it to one edge of the twigs. And as she's blind, because I said how to make the audience understand that I'm blind, I'm doing the so I walked off ahead, and then when the rope, I feel a pull, I come back and pick it up, looking in some other direction, you know. That's how I made my entrance. Mother was very happy. Mother said that in future, theatre will be very much more like this, where the gestures will show what you feel and what you are, and the words will come only as a literary complement to what you have already shown. So, at that time, this flower of Lumiere sans obscurity became the watchword of the ashram, and it was a little long drawn, and after Mother didn't come to direct the play. There were many different types of characters, and it was very well imagined. That's why Mother liked the story. But Mother told me after seeing the first rehearsal, why didn't you tell me that they were not directing? I would have directed it myself, because Tanmay and Padma were not actually trained for directing. Only then I remembered that for my scenes, they would say, just as you like, do just as you like. And as I had enough background of dramatics, I could ask them to place another person a little differently, position and all that. Then I told them, look here, this gap between my last getting the flower and getting back my sight, and before that is a little too long. I can't keep in me the mood of the girl. So they wrote a very beautiful scene where the girl has picked up flowers and comes with a bouquet of flowers into the stage and is describing the flowers on touching them. Their description of the silence flower was very beautiful, and because you know in India the silence flower is called Nagamani or something like that, or is it the prosperity flower which is
prosperity,
called?
I think is Nagalingam. But the silence flower, I do remember, has an Indian significance of the 100-headed.
Yes, it is known, I think the white variety is known as passion flower. It's the same as what is known as the passion flower in Europe.
Yeah, all the colors are passion flowers.
Of the passion. Now this one was very beautifully described by them, and I liked that description very much, but I have forgotten. She had to touch the flower and describe it. At that moment in the scene, her mother comes in, telling that her friend had been to all sorts of places and has found the flower. He would be back soon or something like that. Then, so that extra scene added for me was a real grace, because then Mother showed me the last scene, how to do the last scene. So she said, you have received the flower, you will bring it slowly to your eyes, not too fast. It is the moment you have waited for years. And then you bring it close, and once you touch it, je vois, I can see. You know, she showed me how to do it. Then I was full of what she had shown, and I was coming back from the ashram. Then one little girl came and told me, Mother is calling you. I said, but I have just seen her. No, she's calling you again. So I went back, and this time Mother was standing nearer her first floor room, what we called her dressing room door. And she said, I was not sure if you had caught all the points. So I called you back. I want you to grasp the thing. And it was very important for all of us, because she said, this new light that has come will have an effect of this sort of allaying all human sufferings. It came down to that. So she showed me again, and this time I was absolutely convinced how I had to do. And after the final day, when I didn't see her at night, but when the next morning I went up to my usual meeting of the mother, Jumanhai told me she was very happy with your work yesterday. She kept on saying, c'est une vraie artiste. She's a true artist, real artist. And afterwards, when she came to see me, she said, c'était épatant, épatant, stunning. You have done, tu as fait exactement comme je t'avais montré. You have done exactly as I showed it to you.
What a blessing. Now after that, future plays, your dramatics teaching?
No, I really didn't. One or two incidents I should mention, otherwise I wouldn't be fair to my directors. Norman used to direct the plays, and in 1956, as I was telling you, when the theatre hall was opened, Mother did her Ascension vers la Vérité, that which was done this year on the 1st of December. Mother did, that was first done in 1956, opening of the theatre hall. Mother had three programs, three items in the program that year. First was a dance from the Upanishads, where Mother added a dance of the Apsaras, because we, those who used to work on dramatics or dance and were here would expect to get included in the 1st December program. So the Upanishadic story was of the gods who are very proud, and each one thinks he is more powerful than the other. Agni, Vayu and Indra, I think these are the three gods. So their conversation and their dialogue is interrupted by one who says, all right, I leave this grass in front of you, burn it, remove it, do something. And none of the gods could do. And Mother had herself indicated the movements that Vayu and Agni should have. And they were unable to do, and Yaksha, the divine voice, we can say, appeared in behind a transparent golden screen and said, so you are not all in all, there is a supreme above you, or something like that, the detail. What was very interesting that year was the participation of the older members. Madhav Pandit, an expert in Sanskrit and all, had asked, you know, his secretary Vasanti?
Yes, yes.
She had sung, I think, some portions, or was it later on? Maybe later on. But he had been consulted, and the gods had spoken on spot or not, I don't remember. We'll have to look up the bulletin to remember it. The next portion was Conversations of the Dead, directed by Norman. And Norman himself, with Raminda, had done the English pair, and Arati and Jamur had done the Iranian pair, Perizade and Dinsha and Perizade. And Mona and I had done the Mesopotamian pair, Turiu Uriu. And there was one more done by Jugulda and one of Tara's brothers who is no more, Jyotindra, of Shivaji and Jaisingh. So these few conversations written by Sri Aurobindo had been done, and as luck would have it, or ill luck would have it, I broke my forearm that year in the sports round. But before I come to that, the last item on the 1st of December was Mother's vers la perfection, Ascension vers la vérité, not vers la perfection. Mother, there is the picture in the bulletin of the mother standing near the footlights, talking to Jayatilalda and Norman Dowsett, or talking to Norman Dowsett with Jayatilalda in the background, because Mother followed her ascent to truth black and white painting, which we are familiar with, in detail on each canvas, which was the size of the stage backdrop, and they used to be rolled up, and they had to be unrolled one by one for each stage of the ascent. And Mother followed it in great detail and advised our artists to paint them. 7 backdrops like that of canvas, so huge, and they were rolled up at the back, and the opening, which this 1st December disappointed me, because I was constantly remembering the opening created by the mother. It was a very simple opening. Here, of course, they wanted, I don't know what they wanted, but they wanted the stage to be ready for the next act. And they had filled up the stage for the journey. But for Mother, it was the backdrops that would give the different levels at which the people were. And the opening was in the philanthropists, was it the philanthropists parlor, where these people were sitting, and a big enough reproduction of Mother's Ascension vers la Vérité is there on the stage. Or was it at the artist's place? I can't remember. Then they said we will meet, what they did last time, we will meet to climb, to take the climb. And in each climb, we saw one new backdrop come down. And for the students' scene, she asked the students, one of the children, to turn a forward roll for entering, to make it look funny and childlike. It was a real experience. And last time they didn't do these two things I found a little, shocking, because the beginning they didn't show the whole painting and the parlor, and the pessimist, Mother has drawn herself. We have a drawing in Mother's drawings and paintings showing the pessimist of Mother's play, and they didn't use that pose, that posture with the head between the hands, and it is very beautiful. So that was the first year. We had done conversations of the dead, and as I broke my forearm, Mother said, now we'll have to drop, you won't be able to do anything. And I was so taken up by my own role that I quite forgot that there were other dialogues, or there was Mother's play. So I said, Mother, how can there be a 1st December without Sri Aurobindo's works? And Mother said, you will be able to do it? I said, I will do with my arm in the sling. So the photograph shows that, and we will pick up some of these 1st December pictures afterwards for you to include. So that was 1956. 57 we did Lumière Sans Autorité. 1958 we did Vasavadatta. And Shrimani Pitwaf had come that year. And Pavitrada had sent me to receive her from the house far away, what was it? And Castellini. And when we were walking together near the Romania, the dining room, we came by the Manikula Vinayaka Temple Street. So she said, are you a dancer? So I said, do you dance, ma'am? I said, yes. How did you know? Then she said, usually people walk, with shorter steps. And the dancers use their whole leg to step forward. So I asked you. And afterwards, one day when we were rehearsing, we had already gone ahead with Norman Dowsett, part of the play. I was doing Vasavadatta, and there were quite a few. I read out the monologues last time, yes. So in the middle of the one act, she was not happy at all. She said, I don't want to see a dancer on the stage. I want your role acted, and something like that. And no one had spoken to me so sharply. So I ran out on the stage, washed my face. Then Norman told her, no one spoke to her so sharply till now. And we made up afterwards. She was very good with me afterwards. And we managed to do it. And but all the roles of the men were done by women, because Norman said, I can't find anyone tall enough to do the role of the hero, so I think I'll have to call Jamur to do it. So Dumu did the role of the hero. Then Noneda said, in that case, we can't have the best friend done by, or
man.
brother done by a man. So Kubotu did the role of Gopalaka, the, and the elder brother. And they used to say, oh, we really feel like men folk. They started the first scene, you know, a drinking scene, and Kumud sat like that. And then Mother told us that it was really, really well done. Manoj had done the role of the minister, Yogandharayan, and Chiban Patel, the photographer, showed me a few photographs and said, see, I have taken this picture of Manoj, this is the first time, you know, and there were 5 figures or 4 figures of Manoj in the same gesture. He, outside body, you know, you could come, and Chiman took a photograph of his, and I just stared and said, because me, outside body, only while sleeping I knew I could come out, not I knew that in waking my parents and others were very clever, they could go outside body. And yes, over and above that, my mother was very clever at going outside body and doing things outside body. And she used to take some a dish of food for mother in the playground, because after tennis mother used to feel hungry. and she liked my mother's cooking very much. So my mother used to take to the playground, and she told me, don't sit on this chair. You are sitting there, you keep sitting. So much later I understood when she left and went out to the playground, she was in sari, but her outermost sheath was transparent. And that I came to know when mother visited our house. She had stood in front of that window, center window in that room, which was my bedroom, and my mother and I were standing there, and mother went into that room, which was my father's room, Noleson's room, and spending quite some time talking to him. So I was talking to my mother, then I looked, I said, Ari, mother has gone away. So my mother said, you have still not learned to see, look. You could see the sand of the feet, you know, something of the feet, and the transparent outside body was there. So my mother said, you couldn't see that, you have still not learned to see. So there were these people whose outermost sheath was transparent.
And your father also had that power?
My father had the power of doing work outside the body, but I don't know if it was transparent. I know one aunt of mine who had also that. But what is more important is standing at that window, mother started telling me that for a long time I have an ambition, I have a great wish to have a studio here. And the old art studio was a plain terrace at that time. There was no building. And evidently she was pointing to that place which could have been a studio. And right in front of my eyes, somebody, some outer body came and placed the asbestos sheet and everything as mother was describing, and said, in southern India, the northern light, mother said exactly as a studio should be with the northern light and all that. So the person told mother, in South India, in the subtropical region, it's not the northern light. In France, it is, a good studio has a northern light. And here, but we will look into the matter afterwards. So that place of the studio had started when mother was speaking to us. about it.
You saw it manifesting.
Yes, just in the air. And for a long time it was left like that with the rubble on the floor. It was not used as a studio. For a long time. It started as a studio only in the 68 or sometime, I'm not very sure. But then the corner house started, and they were suffering from this, of all the dishes that were cooked and all this, Samantha called it aroma of the cooking coming up to the studio, plus the heat, I think, it started affecting. So they built the new studio.
You have done so many plays and directed so many plays also. So do you recollect your any favorite passage that you would like to share with us?
Well, I think we always end with you're reading something.
Yes,
So
it
perhaps
will
we
be.
could do that today.
We can read something.
Fine.
Oh, I had brought the paintings. Paintings we will see afterwards. And also brought some photographs. We've also played tennis with the mother, you know that. We've
You-
also played tennis with the mother.
You played with her also.
She played mixed doubles usually. One year she played mixed doubles full tournament with each pair, but there were 2 years when she played singles with the girls. And she would come and leave Pranabda in the playground and go back to play the singles with us. I'll talk about it a little later, perhaps another day,
Yes.
about what she had told me about rhythmic gymnastics and things concerning the playground. What did I say I would get?
Well, it's something to read. We had talked about who at one time, but that's long. Whatever you would like.
I shall perhaps start with my first attraction to English poetry. I think I spoke of it for 1942. Out of the night that covers me,
No.
dark as the pit from pole to pole. Whatever the gods might be, I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. So these lines impressed me very much. And I was a little girl, there was no school here. And I was reading the story of Troy, how Ulysses cleverly hides his soldiers in a wooden horse and then opens it and comes out and takes up Troy. It was the story of Troy in several chapters. So at that time, Sri Aurobindo was in his own rooms and he was surprised how I pronounced the Greek names so well. Much later, when I was 19 years old, we used to do marching in the playground in front of the mother. And now I don't have that face anymore, but mother said her face retains something of a Greek past. And my makeup artist used to say it was very easy to make up the face, as I had quite high cheekbones, and there was nothing almost to be done, only accentuate the features. But about poem, I don't think I can say any from memory just now. I think I tried the dreamboat. Who was it that came to me in a boat made of dream fire, with his flame brow and his sun gold body? With his flame brow and his sun gold body, melted was the silence into a sweet, secret murmur. Do you come now? Is the heart's fire ready? Hidden in the recesses of the heart, something shuddered. It recalled all that the life's joy cherished, imaged the felicity it must leave, lost forever. And the boat passed, and the gold god vanished. Now, within the hollowness of the world's breast inhabits, for the love died, and the old joy ended, void of a felicity that has fled, gone forever, and the gold god and the dream boat come not. This one, Jivan Mukta, we had done with Amar Kiran under his guidance, a group of us. I can try it, it's a little long.
That'll be fine. Let us end with that.
Let us
That'll
end
be
with that.
wonderful. Yes.
Jivan Mukta. There is a silence greater than any known to earth's dumb spirit, motionless in the soul that has become eternity's foothold, touched by the infinitudes forever. A splendor is here, diffused to the earthward sight, that floods some deep flame-covered, all-seeing eye. Revealed, it wakens when God's stillness heavens the ocean of moveless nature. The power descends, no fate can perturb or vanquish, calmer than mountains, wider than marching waters, a single might of luminous quiet, tirelessly bearing the worlds and ages. A bliss surrounds with ecstasy everlasting, an absolute high-seated immortal rapture possesses, sealing love to oneness in the grasp of the all-beautiful, all-beloved. He who from time's dull motion escapes and thrills, rapt, thoughtless, wordless, into the Eternal's breast, unrolls the form and sign of being, seated above in the omniscient silence. Although consenting here to a mortal body, he is undying. Limit and bond he knows not. For him, the eons are a playground. Life and its deeds are his splendid shadow. Only to bring God's forces to waiting nature, to help with wide-winged peace her tormented labor, and heal with joy her ancient sorrow, casting down light on the inconscient darkness, he acts and lives. Vain things are mind's smaller motives to one whose soul enjoys for its high possession infinity and the sempiternal. All is his guide and beloved and refuge. To one whose soul enjoys for its high possession infinity, and the sempiternal all is his guide and beloved and refuge. I shall say just a few lines because on reading this I remembered the lines of a very favorite poem of all of which all of us know, but I'll still check the beginning. You could perhaps help me a little. The last from who? This last poem that I read reminded me of these two stanzas, so I shall add these. The master of man and his infinite lover, he is close to our hearts, had we vision to see. We are blind with our pride and the pomp of our passions. We are bound in our thoughts, where we hold ourselves free. It is he in the sun who is ageless and deathless, and into the midnight his shadow is thrown. When darkness was blind and engulfed within darkness, he was seated within it, immense and alone.